Basically, historically, I'm a person who likes to talk about history, and we're always going through these changes in community mental health and looking at what was the initiation of our current transformation. I mean, I've been around in community mental health in Wayne County probably since 1980 or so, and there's been a series of changes, but the latest set of transformation changes, probably the best I can track, it started sometime in about 1999. And the then Surgeon General, Dr. David Satcher, was looking at mental health care in the United States and what needed to happen to improve it. And a whole series of papers came out after that, looking at preventing suicide, also dealing with culture, race, and ethnicity, and also setting an agenda for children's mental health care. Those things kind of preceded in about 2001. The Institute of Medicine published a first book that really had to do with how could health care in general be improved in the United States. And it was kind of a groundbreaking work that talked about, on the physical health care side, we're spending a lot of money for care, but the quality of care in the United States is not as good as what it should be, and what could be done in the healthcare system in general to improve that care overall. And they came out with a whole series of recommendations that have been taken up nationwide by the Joint Commission and by others to kind of set the overall agenda for improvement in healthcare system. And then I guess mental health said, well, let's get on the bandwagon. And in about 2003, following up with the Surgeon General's report, the President convened a panel of people, and one of members was our own Wally Prechter here from Michigan, who actually put together a report that talked in a very global way about what is the agenda to improve health care relative to mental health services. And then, of course, our own governor followed suit in 2004, and a mental health commission report was put together to look at what do we need to improve care in Michigan. And that basically has informed our activities since 2004. As a result, I think of the President's new Freedom Commission report, all of the federal funding agencies who then paid for mental health services were basically called to say, what are you going to do? You're spending all these billions of dollars on health care, and mental health care particularly. What are you going to do to make care look more like what the reports are saying and to implement what was recommended in the new Freedom Commission report? And so to that end, SAMHSA put together its version of transforming mental health care in America and has a federal action agenda, and a series of documents have come out as a result of that that relate to the specifics of how we're going to improve care. We talked about the Institute of Medicine report, and we'll talk a little bit more detail with you about that later, but the principles relative to the IOM report that had to do with general health care, there came to be a group of people who came together and asked the question whether or not these principles could be applied to mental health care for mental disorders and substance use. And so in 2005, they convened a panel to actually look at that. And actually, they came out with another publication, which is a book I highly recommend, Improving the Quality of Health Care for Mental and Substance Use Conditions, and it's one of the Quality Chasm series. And I think this book, more so than perhaps some of the other documents, for me, kind of really hit home. And basically what they're saying is that what we do to improve care is to look at it from a framework of overall improving quality. And that some things that are very near and dear to our hearts are particularly relevant. And one had to do with actually looking at patients' ability to make decisions about their care and express their preferences. That's a big piece of what has to happen to improve care in America. And that goes along with the principles of recovery and self-determination in mental health, but that's very important. Also, what they found in this report in terms of global recommendations was there was a need to strengthen the evidence base and quality improvement infrastructure around mental health and substance abuse care. Basically, if you're not monitoring it or looking at the activity, you're not going to get any improvement in it, and that somehow how we're funding needs to be tied to the outcomes that we're expecting. Also,